5 things I wished someone told me when growing up as an adoptee. 1. Don't be ashamed of your Asian appearance. When growing up, my Asian appearance was a very big insecurity of me. Instead of being worried about not being pretty enough or skinny enough, I always worried about not looking Caucasian enough. I used to be so easily triggered and got upset when someone would make a comment about my race or question it. When I was young, I always wished that I just could blend in, look like everyone else and not stand out because of my looks. And looking back, I wished someone told me that there is no shame in looking different, in looking Asian, because what matters is how I feel from the inside. 2. People won't always understand your situation, and you shouldn't expect them to do so. I used to get so upset when other people would make comments about my adoption and background, say what I consider rude things, or just ask inappropriate questions. But the older I got, the more I began to realize that not everyone will understand my situation and my feelings, and I shouldn't expect them to do so. Especially when people first meet me and make assumptions about me, that I am Chinese and not Dutch. I used to get so agitated. But I realized I can't fully control that, and not being able to control other people's thoughts about me used to upset me and anger me so much. But I learned that how people perceive me isn't always in my control, and that's fine. It's natural for people to make assumptions before knowing me, and you can't always blame people for that, because most of the times people mean well, but they just lack knowledge and experience. I wish someone told me that it's fine if people misunderstand me, that I shouldn't let others define who I am, and I don't always have to try to convince everyone. 3. Adoption is an everlasting process and journey. Every adoptee has their own journey, deals with their own feelings and emotions, and is on a different path. And when I was young, I never really thought about searching for my biological family. I never really thought about the hardships they must have been through, nor did I really think they must have been worried about me. I never really even considered the option of finding them, and never thought that they wanted to find me. It was mostly when other people mentioned my background and asked questions, I thought about them too. But I always got so anxious because it reminded me of my past, something that I know nothing about. When I was young, I would try to ignore the fact that I am adopted, and though ignoring and suppressing my feelings might work in the short term, it will caught up in the long term. I wish someone told me that my adoption story is something that will be forever a part of me, and there is nothing wrong with that. I wish someone told me that adoption is an everlasting process of accepting, of healing, and that every person deals with it in their own time. I wish someone told me that these negative emotions and feelings I always felt and associated with being adopted don't define me as a person, because I am not my emotions and feelings, these are just temporary. I used to be afraid that my adoption would always be a negative occurrence in my life, something that would haunt me wherever I would go. But as I grew older, I realized it's part of my identity, and that's neither a bad thing or a good thing. It's just something that happened, something that overcame me, and that's it. 4. Representation matters. I grew up in a small town in a predominantly white neighborhood, white school with only white family members. And of course there's nothing inherently wrong with this. It was still the main cause for feeling like an outsider. When I was young, I had no other friends who looked like me, I had no teachers who looked like me, and every time when I used to watch TV, there was no one who looked like me, who had the same eyes and the same skin color. And the older I got, the more I longed to simply blend in, but just couldn't. Comments about my appearance didn't help either. I wished someone told me that it's normal to feel lonely and misunderstood when no one looks like you and goes through the same problems. When I first started to travel and backpack through Southeast Asia, I felt this feeling of belonging for the very first time in my life. At first, I couldn't really understand and pinpoint why, but later I understood it's simply because everyone looked like me, or rather, I looked like everyone else. I didn't stand out, and I could basically blend into the crowd. 5. Adoption is not black and white. When it comes to adoption, it is really easy to fall into this victim mentality. And although I am not claiming that in some cases the child isn't a victim, there is no use in staying in this narrative, because staying in this narrative only will harm you in the future. Adoption is such a complex situation, with complex emotions and feelings, and there are so much more parties involved than only the child. It's impossible to make black and white statements when it comes to adoption. And to stay in this victim mentality means that all parties keep suffering. I wish that someone would tell me that in order to understand my adoption, I have to first understand the bigger picture. And this picture is complicated and can be messy. But once I slowly began to comprehend this picture, I was able to come to terms with my reality. I was able to transform my victim mentality into a survivor mentality. I learned that despite my painful past, I am still standing. And that is something to be proud of and to celebrate, because I and we are so much more than our past. If you made it till the end, thank you so much for watching this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, I am really curious about the other adoptees. Can you relate to the stuff I just talked about? And let me know down in the comment section below.